Hello everyone. The agenda of today's session is to know about the Alias IP and what are the benefits of Alias IP, how can we use it and where we can use it. So first of all, the Google Cloud Alias IP range let you assign a range of internal IP address as aliases to a virtual machine network interface. Suppose in the old days we are using multiple NIC cards to a VM to assign the multiple IPs. But here Google provides you the variety to use the alias IP as a secondary IP for a VM. This is useful if you have multiple services running on a VM. Like in a VM, if you are running backup service, you are running pod service or cluster service, in that case, on a VM that you want to assign each service a different IP address. You can use the alias IP range also to work with the pods for the, GKE Google Kubernetes Engine pods. Okay, so alias IP range is automod is a BPC network or subnet. If you are creating any BPC in a automod, then it creates the subnets in all region in one subnet in all region. So that is created automatically, so there is no alias IP with them, uh, with the auto created BPC. But if you want to add any alias IP with them, you only can option you have to uh, edit the BPC and add a secondary IP range with that subnet. I will show you after this slide. In automod BPC network, a subnet exists in each region. These automatically created subnets each have a primary CIDR range only, but no secondary range. To to use the alias IP with an automod BPC network, you can allocate alias IP range from the automatically created subnet's primary CIDR range or add a secondary range to the automatically created subnet and allocate alias IP from the new secondary range. Okay, so I will show you the first how we can create it. So here in the BPC, suppose I am creating a automod BPC here is and is here create a BPC. It's a ABC test BPC with automatic mode I am using here. In automatic mode, you can see all the reason. In all the reason, it's creating the IP address range, and then I'm going. It's only creating the primary IP range. No, there is no secondary IP. Once I will create a secondary IP here, it will show the drop down arrow over here. So now it's creating a automod BPC and with a IP range. So this is my custom mod BPC. Here you can see the primary and secondary range of the IP is a CIDR range, secondary and primary IP range, and this is my subnet. So it will take some time to create. So in between, I can uh, talk about the agenda that today we'll create a inside our organizations at techie-zone.co.in. Inside we have two projects. We'll create a BPC with subnet and the subnet with the two CIDR range or multiple CIDR range, and then we'll create the VMs and assign the uh, both IP ranges from this and from the secondary IP ranges to this VM, and the use of this to mm, use for the multiple services running on a VM. So this is my uh, BPC is created is a automod BPC. So if I want to add the secondary range, just I want to go to the VPC and then edit, and once I edit this, I need to choose any of the subnet from here. Just choose the subnet and click on the edit. So once you edit it, you will get the option add IP range. Just add the IP range, name ABC is a 10.0.1.1.0/24. Suppose I have added this IP range. So once I added any secondary IP range in any of the BPC or subnet, so till the time I cannot delete that BPC, the secondary IP exists. First, I need to delete the secondary IP range, then only I can delete the BPC. Okay, so I have added the secondary IP range here. So once it added, it will replicate in the list. Next, alias IP range key properties. Okay, so now the secondary range is added over here. Just go back and see how it looks like in the BPC section. So here you can see the secondary IPs exist over here. So once you added the secondary IP range, you cannot delete this BPC directly from here. Once it will throw out the error message. So if you want to delete it, you need to remove the secondary IP range first. Just click on the BPC, remove this secondary IP range, save it, and then you can delete the BPC. Okay, this is the things I mentioned over here. Okay, the alias IP range can be allocated either from the primary CIDR range or from the secondary CIDR range of the same subnet. Okay, so first I will explain this point. So now the secondary IP range has been deleted and you will not able to see this here. No drop down menu is here. So if you want to delete now, you can delete the VPC from here. Just delete and click here. So it will be deleting. And now I will go to create a new BPC. Is a BPC name is BPC-test 2. It's a test 1. Okay. And now it's a custom mod BPC hyphen test 1 hyphen subnet 1. Okay. Just I'm copying this. This is our first subnet. First subnet. Now I'm going to provide the subnet range. First, I will select the region is East US 4. So my region is East US 4, and the IP range which I am providing is the 10.0.0.0/24. Now I will add the secondary range. The secondary IP range. Secondary IP range is subnet. I will provide the same thing with the secondary range. Subnet 1 hyphen second. Okay, and the range would be 10.0.0.0/24. It's wrong. I have to provide here is a 1. So first you let you know what is the primary address range and what is the secondary range. The primary address range, which is I am providing for this subnet, this is my primary address range, and this is my secondary subnet range. So the alias IP range can be allocated either from the primary CIDR range or from the secondary CIDR range of that same subnet. Okay, same subnet means this is my subnet, and from this subnet is a primary range, is a secondary range. So whenever we create a virtual machine, at that time we can assign the alias IP. Till here we are not talking about the alias IP in while we creating the subnet. While we creating the subnet, that time we are just creating the range of IP, it's a primary range or the secondary range. But while we create the VM, at that time we use the alias IP. So here we have created the subnet. Now our subnet is created over here. So it will take some time. In once it will created, then we'll assign the range, and that range will take from the primary IP, either from the primary IP or from the secondary IP. So here first for the testing purpose I am showing you the North Virginia. I am checking this with the zone A, and then going to the network part. Network, in the networking, just you can see is a test one. Again I did some mistake. US East 4, okay, and network is a BPC test 2, or either it's a BPC test 1. Okay, test 1 is not yet created, that's why it's not showing. So I'm taking the test 1, and in test 1 this is my primary range, and once I add the range alias IP range, this is my secondary range. So I can take it from this primary range or from the secondary range. Okay, so I need to select the range from here, and here I need to provide range. So how I will provide the range here? Just I will make a subnetting of this one 10.1.0.0.24, 10.1.0.0.24, and I can take any of the subnet from here, and I need to put it in this ID. Okay, it can be from slash 24 to slash 32 also. If I will take the slash 32, it will take a single IP address. Suppose for slash 32, I'm showing it here. If I will make it slash 32, it will permit one host only for a single host. Okay, so that the thing showing in the option, like it's a slash 24 or slash 32 to get IP address to range assigned automatically. So I'm just taking this as mentioned previously is a 26. Okay, so this is slash 26 I'm taking. I'm putting it slash 26. So first point, I hope you guys understand the first point, which is the alias IP range can be allocated either from the primary CIDR range or from the secondary CIDR range of the same subnet. For VM network interface, the alias IP must be from the same subnet resource that provides the IP address. For the primary network interface, you cannot select primary or secondary CIDR range from another subnet. Means you cannot select the primary or secondary from another subnet, because the subnet you will select, if suppose if I have multiple subnet and I have selected this subnet here and I want to choose the alias from the secondary IP, the subnet. I cannot select it. The subnet should be same. Means this one is the subnet. So once I select the subnet, I have added the secondary IP range to this subnet only. It means that for this alias IP also I have to select the secondary IP range, which is the part of the primary subnet. Okay. Now alias IP range are optional and they are not automatically added. Okay. Okay. And alias IP range can be configured during the instance creation or modification. Only we can add at that time once we are creating an instance or we are modifying that instance, then only we can add the alias IP. Okay. Now next, because all subnets in the BPC network shares a single default gateway, single default gateway means while you are going to the BPC here, this subnet is sharing a single default gateway. This subnet is sharing different single default gateway. Okay. So, so all alias IP address within an interface share the same default gateway as the primary IP. Means alias IP also shares the same default gateway. In both subnet we have alias IP or the subnet IP. Secondary subnet IP means this secondary subnet IP will share this gateway. Is the same way while we are providing the alias IP here, it will share the gateway of this subnet. Means for this compute, it will share the gateway of this subnet. Okay, 65. And alias IP ranges are routable within the Google Cloud Virtual Network without routing additional routes. Means we no need to add any external extra route for this. It's automatically routable and you do not have to add routes to every alias IP and you do not have to take the route quotas into the account. Okay, so it's automatically use the gateway and according to that it will by default it will take the routes. No need to add additional route for the alias IP. And alias IP address can be announced by the cloud router to an on-premises network connection via VPN or interconnect. So suppose if for this I need to draw a table with a paint. Suppose this is your on-premises network and this is your cloud network. Okay. So here you are using a compute with alias IP, this one, and from here to here you have created a VPN or interconnect. So in that case, the point alias IP address can be announced by the cloud router. Okay. So to make this VPN or interconnect, you need to put an cloud router here. And also your service provider for like ISP will put a cloud router here only. So in both sides you have a cloud router and this cloud router will announce the secondary IP to their computes. Okay. So and in this diagram I have shown you that a subnet is a primary IP, is a secondary IP, and this is my 3 VM. All 3 VMs having the primary address and the alias IP address, alias IP address of this range. Now we will come to the next slide. Here using this is the same one, the primary IP range, secondary IP range. Here to the VM we have provided the primary IP range and the alias IP range. Using IP aliasing, you can configure multiple internet IP. internal IP addresses. Like here, I have applied the multiple alias IPs representing container or applications hosted on a VM without having to define a separate network interface. Okay, no need to assign the separate network interface to this VM. Without assigning a separate interface, I have provided the IP range. And once I applied this, this VM will use the multiple IP. Okay, and you can assign VM alias IP range from either from the subnet primary or secondary range. You can use it as mentioned here. Suppose this one, I'm taking this. hmm. So here, what I need to take is a 192.168.0.128 slash 26. So taking that, okay. So again, I'm going to the back backup one. Okay. Now it's a none external IP. Okay. And next one. So this is the option to create a BPC using the gcloud console, and this is for the subnet with secondary IP range. This is my secondary IP ranges. One I have created for the Linux, this one, and another one I have created for cloud services. Okay, I can color it, make it color. So if you will take a copy this command, uh, you can change the uh, highlighted things and you can use this. Only you need to make the changes of here. If you want to create it in another region, you can change the region. Secondary name you can change because this is the secondary range. You also can change the name of the secondary subnet IP range, and this is my primary IP range. You can change it for your is this is my BPC range, BPC name. You can change it, and this is the project name. So inside this project, I am creating subnet, primary range, secondary range, BPC name. Okay, and here is a test BPC, G Cloud Compute Network create test BPC. Okay, and this is create test subnet. This is my subnet name. Here is my BPC name, and the same BPC name you are getting here is a test BPC project under this project. Okay, subnet mode custom, or here automatic or custom, you can both, but mostly we create the custom mode. Okay, now next is the for this also we need to create the firewall rules for alias IP range. So create two firewall rules. One firewall rules to denies traffic traveling across from the using the VPN from on-premises to reaching to the subnet primary range CIDR. If you are creating a rule for alias IP, then first denied rule will apply to deny the traffic which is coming from the on-prem through the VPN to your primary CIDR range. And second rule to allow the traffic from on-prem coming via VPN to secondary. So secondary will be allowed. And this is the command to create the computes with the secondary IP range, or you can say is with alias IP, which is showing here that alias IP is a C under CE. Okay. Now next, benefit of the alias IP range. When alias IP range are configured, Google Cloud automatically installs virtual private cloud network routes. Okay, Google Cloud automatically install virtual private cloud network routes for primary and alias IP range for the subnet of the primary network interface. Okay, so for the first benefit is the when we are using the alias IP range configured, the Google Cloud automatically installs the virtual private cloud network routes for primary and alias IP ranges. Okay. Next, you container orchestration does not need to specify BPC network connectivity for these routes. Okay. This simplifies routing traffic and managing your containers. When contains IP addresses are allocated by the Google Cloud validation process in the Google uh, Cloud and ensure that container pod IP address do not conflict with the VM IP address. Okay, means VM IP means primary subnet range, or the pod IP range you have to assign from the secondary range, because you are using the pod service inside a VM, and that VM is using multiple services. Okay, so the alias IP range are routable within the Google Cloud Virtual Network without required additional routes. Okay, so here are advantage of allocating alias IP ranges from secondary CID range. By allocating from a range separate from the range used for primary IP address, you can separate infrastructure of the VM from service containers. Means for service container you are providing a separate range from the secondary IP, and for infrastructure or VM you are providing a separate IP range from the primary subnet or primary IP range, CIDR. Okay, when you configure the separate address space in infrastructure and services, you can set up firewall controls for VM alias IP address separately for the firewall controls of VM primary address IP address. For example, you can allow certain traffic for containers pod and deny similar traffic for the VMs, which we have applied here from the firewall rule. Okay, now next. This is a simple alias IP mod which we are using for the peering. We have network A and network B. In between, we have paired them, paired the BPC, and here we have created the IP range here also, and here is a with the primary IP range. So in this subnet, we have primary and secondary IP addresses both, and here is a primary IP range. So here we can use the pod and VM, and this pod will communicate is with this VM. Okay, auto mod BPC network can be deleted if uh, in is of first scenario I have shown you that if I have created a auto mod BPC and added a secondary range over there, we cannot delete this. First we need to delete the secondary IP range, then only we can delete the BPC. That thing automat BPC network cannot be deleted if secondary subnet range are present. And in the static route, the next hop IP address must be the primary IP range. Okay, primary address of the VM, and alias IP address are not supported as a next hop address. Both primary and secondary IP ranges of the subnet are reachable by the VM instance in the peer network. So both IP primary and secondary IP ranges of the subnet are reachable by the VM instance in the peered network, means peered network. And in BPC we have two type of network. It's a peered network and shared network. So it's reachable for peered network only if we are using a shared BPC. In that case, only the primary IP address will be reachable. So suppose if you have two network, here you have shared, like in my first diagram here, if I am using a shared VPC, and here I have created the VM. So in that case, I will get this IP address. I am able to provide these VMs to this IP range, not that this one. This will be not replicated here in shared VPC case. But if I am using the peered VPC, suppose I'm just copying it, hmm, okay, and Control C and Control V. And what I'll do, I'll just, this is not the peered one. Is suppose this would be our peered VPC. Okay. In that case, you can assign. If it's a peer, you can assign the secondary IP range and the primary IP range both to these VMs. Okay. So I will share this PPT uh, over on my URL website, or also you can find it from the link. So I will share this BPC details or the PPT in the file share. You can download it from the techizone.online slash file share. I will mention this URL over there and you can download it from here, as well as kindly request you to subscribe my channel also, which is techizone. So in the next session, I will show you how to use the APIs and what is the use of APIs, how we create the APIs, because APIs, whenever you use any service like compute engine or network services, at that time you see that you need to enable the API to use that service. How we design that API and how we create that API. And what is the use if I want to use that API with other things, like suppose I want to book the flight tickets, okay, from the Go Vivo or from anyone. So Go Vivo is not a service provider, or it's a not handling the flights. It's a not airline service. It's a just service which is providing us the facility to book the tickets. And even the Go Vivo is not having the servers in which they have the details of the airlines. So the airlines service like Indian Airlines or the any other service, they will provide the API connectivity. They will provide the connectivity of the API. They will permit you to use their API for their website. And once you reach to the Go Vivo website, that API will call the details from here there. They fetch the detail and provide you the as per your request. They will provide you the details on the Go Vivo site. So that is the use of the API is basically a communication, or they are a service which will provide you the result as per your search. So in the next session, I will share the details of the API and show you step by step updates and step by step things how to create, how to manage it. Okay. So thanks for watching and kindly subscribe my channel. Have a nice day.